Write Your Book in 20 Minutes. I'm Eva Shaw, and I'm delighted that you're here. This is an interactive workshop, so if you have questions, stop me. I don't mind. Do I mind, Gregory? Okay, thank you. Gregory said no. And I'm going to show you the techniques that I have taught about 50,000 other writers. I did not invent this technique, I must tell you. There is a writing guru who swears she did. I will not tell you her name, but she swears she did. However, it's been documented that Leonardo da Vinci actually developed it. So maybe she was around with Leonardo da Vinci. I wasn't, but back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I figured out this system, and then I was surprised that other people had. Write Your Book in 20 minutes is something that I developed because writing is fun. If you think you need to, like some writing gurus say, you need to bleed for your work, open a vein, it's painful, we must suffer. Do I look like I suffer for my art? Excuse me, I'm not suffering for anybody, and I surely don't for writing. Nobody ties our hands amongst our back and forces us to be writers. We do it because we love it. We do it because we have to. Oftentimes, we are the only ones who believe in ourselves as we start our career, and if we're lucky, like I am, I have a spouse who always believed in me. But some of us, all we have is ourselves. So you have to believe in yourself. A way to do that is to prepare yourself on your journey for it. The bubble method that I call it the bubble method. Some of you might know it as clustering, mind mapping, webbing is one of the other terms for it. It's very easy and fun to use, and it lets you get your creativity out in a way that the old ABC 1, 2, 3 type of outline never did. Why? It's the way the brain works. Now, if I asked you what you made for dinner, please don't offer this, but this could be a story in itself. If I asked any of you what you had for dinner last night, you would say something, your brain would work this way. Well, the traffic was heavy getting home, and then the dog needed to be walked, and I had to get out of those shoes. And then I turned on the television. There was some leftover Chinese, but I decided not to. Oh, that's right. I took lean cuisine out of the freezer. You didn't come out and say, I had lean cuisine. But that's the lean cuisine came out of your words. But you didn't start that way. You started with the other progression. And this is how our brain works. It doesn't do it in the old-fashioned method that we learned in high school, or bless those high school English teachers, but they did teach us that. I found that method too restrictive. Maybe like other writers, when I write something down, I want it to be in some kind of order, and I cannot create a book in order in my brain. I go from I got home, the traffic was heavy, and I had to walk the dog kind of order to get where I wanted to go. And that's what this method does. And you really can write your book in 20 minutes using it. And it's very easy and very interactive, but there are rules, like everything else in life. There are rules. You must print, and you must use a big piece of paper. I got this at, some people say, where do you get, this is called newsprint, this cheesy kind of paper. And I think I got this at Aaron Brothers, but you can get it at Walmart, teacher supply store. You can open brown paper bags. You can use the classified section of the newspaper, as long as you don't get stuck reading what's in the classified section. But use something big. Why not use a small piece of paper? Well, I'll show you in a minute, but if I'm doing this method and I run out of room here, I'm simply not going to add anything else because I've run out of room. I won't draw the picture to go around here. I'll say, oh, I don't need that idea. Well, that idea may have been the best idea you came up with. And this is how the brain works. Printing, I understand, I'm not a brain scientist, but printing brings both hemispheres of the brain together. And I need all of that. I need my whole brain working here and not just one section on top of the other. I like to use colors. Colors are nice. Also, don't feel like you need to share this. Again, the rules. No censoring. What were the other rules? Printing, color, big paper. And I have used this method for every book that I've written. It just works for me. So that's what I'm sharing this morning. Okay, very simple. You make a, excuse my back while I'm doing this, and you can test it out on something that you brought. But I want to see everybody using big paper when they leave here. What you want to do is make something that looks like a child's drawing of the sun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I planned ahead. 10. Okay. The trick is to print, but your main idea, let's say we're really brainstorming. We're going to try something on nonfiction first, and then we'll do fiction. I'll show you how because this does work for fiction and nonfiction. Great for articles. It's just dynamite for articles. It makes it write itself, and you'll see that in just a minute. We're just brainstorming. Let's say it's a rainy afternoon. We're writers. Is there anybody here who can't pretend? Okay. It's a rainy afternoon. The house is clean. The dog is clean. You have gas in the car. All the laundry is done. Are we still pretending here? Okay. Okay, and besides, there's a fresh pot of coffee on the stove. An apple pie cooling on the counter, and you've just lost 5 pounds. Okay. So it's in a perfect world. We're just sitting there brainstorming a little bit in this perfect day. So we're going to pop a main topic in here, and this is just for fun. Let's say bread. You know, one time I did potatoes, and then I got really hungry. So bread. We're brainstorming, ladies and gentlemen. Recipes, yes? Gluten-free bread. Okay, let's see. How about variations? We'll make it general. variations. Gregory? Slang. Oh, like money. Yeah. Oh, I like that. Feel free to stand up if you can't see. Yes, sir. First recorded recipe. Yeah. Did Paleolithic woman bake bread? I figure man was out killing dinosaurs. So, history? Oops. That really says history. Smell. Let's say smell. We're not leaving until this is done. Millie? Symbolism. I should write straight up, huh? S-Y-M-B-O-L-I-S-M. And if I don't spell something correctly, tell me. That would be embarrassing. Jenny?
How about failures? I can't get even Rose Frozen Builder
How?
right.
My kind of gal, yeah. Yeah, well, maybe yeast. What is yeast? Yeast is kind of scary if you think it's little. Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about. We have variations, but let's talk about the components, and let's specifically put yeast down here because that's fascinating. No, let's put methods. Well, I think we got recipes, but let's put that down with variations here. Recipes. Use your imagination when I write this. Something different. We're brains. Yeah. Why are we a carbohydrate crazy country? Maybe. Yeah. Oh, we'll just put carbs up here. All right. I like bread. I like bread. I'm not afraid to say so. My name's Eva, and I like bread. Yes? Breads around the world. Excellent. Yeah. How about world breads? That's a D. Yes.
Don't eat it, make it like bread ornaments.
Wonderful crafts. Yeah, exactly. Let's stand back, let's sit back. What haven't, now this is the important part. This is where the real brainstorming comes in. What haven't we got there?
Well, how about Jesus and
Oh,
cooking the bread?
yes, ceremony. Yeah, in ceremony. Excellent. Variations, history. Well, it depends. You know, that could be a category on its own. But history and symbolism, where did we have symbols? Yeah. Yep. I almost put a happy face here. Religion, how's that? R-E-L-I-G. See what? I'm even running out of room. N-S. Okay, bread in recipes. In foods, how's that?
Famous bakers.
Famous celebrity bakers. Yes, yes, yes. Now, you'll notice I don't try to be neat. Neat isn't important. As long as I can read it afterward, and that's one of the reasons it's important to print, that's good. Did you have another?
What about comfort? How you feel when you...
Yeah, good. Topic was comfort. Bread is a comfort food. Well, you know, smell might be, but smell is different. Comfort.
Senses instead of smell.
Senses. Yeah, I think.
Because smell could fit underneath that.
Oh, look at that. Senses. S-E-N-S-E-S. Right? N-S. Then we have smell. Texture. Thank you. Comfort. I'm getting smaller here. I'm rooming in and out of room. Okay, did anybody else have to say something about bread before we go on to the next step? Big famous bakeries. Man, yes. Famous bakers, but famous bakeries. Because a famous baker doesn't, and bakery competitions. Those of us who are addicted to the Food Network have seen those bakery. B-A-K-E-R-I-E-S. And then famous bakers, we get competition. I can never imagine. I haven't poisoned anybody in my household lately, but I'm not a great cook. So, but I love the smell. The bread machine was fascinating. Okay. You're really getting into this, aren't you? Methods, yes. Tools. Gadgets. But what we did is suddenly, because we didn't censor ourselves, and yes, it's more fun in a big group like this, but just write it and then go do something else, do the laundry. Then write it, run an errand, write some on it, and come back. Leave it out. Let your brain percolate. I have found that when I sit down, and maybe you've had this too, sit down and I'm going to try to say something brilliant and really smart and clever. I can't. I go into the Hallmark store and I pick out a card, and then I don't know what to write inside of it. You know, there's not enough room. I got to write a book. So let it percolate. Our brain works wonderfully when we're away doing something mindless, like vacuuming, washing the car, mowing the lawn, taking a walk. That's what I love to do. When the writing doesn't come, go out in the garden and pull some weeds. All of this works. So know, even though you're not working on your outline, which eventually will turn into a book, I promise it will, that your brain's working on it. Don't forget that when you're sleeping, your brain is working on it. Other times, when you're at your day job, your brain can be working. Okay, another thing that you've noticed, I know because it's very messy, is we've started offshoots. The question was, can some of these offshoots become the main bubble? Absolutely. What I do then is I take that pad, I rip that off, I save it. Potentially, if I like 5 things here, one might be a book. But after I sell that book, or if I want to gain credibility for selling that book, because writing magazine articles is a way to gain credibility to sell your book. By doing that, there's possibility of articles here or offshoot books. I'm fascinated with yeast. I don't know anything about them, but suddenly you take them from the dry package, you pour it in with warm water and a little sugar, and they come to life. What is that? And wouldn't kids be interested in something that weird? You know, suddenly you could make little plants come to life. Things, it sounds icky and fascinating. Hey, we're starting on the second bubble here. What I would do is now I would put this away. I'd go really clean my house, find out what kind of mess the dog has made, get the groceries, do the other work on the day job, and then I'd come back and I'd look at it. And I'd say, what interests me the most? Because if I don't choose a topic that interests me, I'm not going to follow through. And I've seen this with other writers. I would never do this, but we all have an imagination, that then they start floundering. There's the temptation to plagiarize. Say, oh, I have to finish my book, and here's a chapter from XYZ book on yeast making. I'll just take some of that. Nobody will know. And obviously that's against the law. And so find something that really interests you. Then, as you're getting to this point, again, this is nonfiction, we'll do fiction in a moment, do a little research. This is the time when you click on Google and find out, and Amazon, and take yourself to a big bookstore, but pick out some topics that you're interested in. Okay. So I have a lot of topics. Now we're back with the lost 5 pounds, have a homemade apple pie on the counter that's cooling, right? We're pretending. What I do is now tear this off and put it aside. But I've also selected a topic I want to go a little bit more with. So I'll do some searching on the internet to see what topics are covered. If there is nothing on my topic, this is not a good sign. People say, oh, especially the private coaching clients, writers come to me and I do some private coaching to help them work through their manuscripts. They'll say, oh, my topic is just very special, very special. Oh, it's going to be New York Times bestseller list. Nobody in the world has ever said anything like this. It'll have to have a new space on Barnes & Noble. This is bad. This is bad, ladies and gentlemen, because if you have walked into Barnes & Noble or Borders, God bless them, they don't pay their clerks a lot of money to think. They need a category. Books have genres. Books have categories. We walk in, and Gregor says, I want books on how to make container gardening. And she says, over by aisle 9. You know, or I want a book on how to care for my baby tarantula. That'll be aisle 6. They just have places. So if you think you have a book that nobody has ever covered, and it's not in any reference material, and it's not ever, you're going to have a darn hard time selling that to a publisher or an agent. And specifically, who will your consumer be? You need to think about who is going to buy your book. And we're not just talking publishers and agents. And we will talk about that after second break time. How-to and self-help books outsell all the other genres. That doesn't mean you all have to do how-to and self-help topics. It's just for your information, you need to know that. Romance books are getting hot again. Memoirs are becoming more and more popular. Another trend I've seen are collections of short stories, which I think is very interesting. So think about who your reader is. You might even want to do a bubble method on who your reader is. So I would select a few of these topics. I'd go online, do a search on Google. If you're not comfortable using the internet or you're helping somebody who isn't, to learn how to do it. The internet and all the stuff that's out there is a lot like a swamp. Yes, you can step on something crazy and scary and scream and frighten you, but there's a world of great stuff on the internet. Okay, I hate to erase this because I can't just refer back to it, but let's for fun choose something that we can develop about 10 subtopics. Symbolism would work, history would work. What? Senses. Okay? Crafts, methods. We want to make this easy for ourselves, so we're just, how about methods? Okay, just for the fun of it. Okay, I'm erasing. Okay, this is my second level. I've looked on Google, I've gone to the big bookstores, I've looked on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, whatever is your favorite internet bookstore, and I've seen what the competition is. I've made a list possibly of those publishers that buy these books. I've taken a field trip to the store to open it, and if you don't read the acknowledgments page in a book and you're looking to sell a book in that genre, you've missed a golden opportunity. If it says, I could not have sold this book without my agent Kathleen Shaputis of XYZ Agency, I just struck gold, because then guess who is going to be the first agent that I contact? And I'm going to say, dear Ms. Shaputis, I love the book Get Naked with Bread. And my book is even better because it is about traditions and various methods of bread making, and not only, it's like bread making for dummies. And if you like Get Naked with Bread, I'd love to send you my book proposal. And I found all that. This is not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. I found that all in the acknowledgments of the book. So read that. Read the preface, read the introduction. Go online and look at the authors that are in your competition. Look to see what they say on their sites. Okay, methods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How about, isn't there wood-burning ovens like that are supposed to be better? Wood stoves, it shows you. Brick oven. Okay, how about, what'd you say, ovens? Oven.
Right, they're actually talking about cooking in versus making.
Yeah, methods. Well, but cooking on over a campfire would be different than cooking in my oven at home. Methods. Gadgets. Let's put gadgets, because machines and gadgets are different things. Outdoor methods. Thank you, Sissy. Ooh, cooking with children. Yeah, bread making for children. With kids. Also, and we have two people who are handicapped here. How about cooking specific methods for people who are handicapped? Because I bet you have a hard time pouring stuff into the top of the bread machine. Yeah. So with kids and others who need help. How's that? Oops. I hope you're all thinking, because we're not leaving until we finish this. Okay, yes?
How about the kneading? The sensuality of the
Ooh, the sensuality. That was Naked with Bread. That's what that was all about. Yeah. Can you imagine? We'll knead a little bit here and then. Actually.
kneading would be good exercise too.
Oh, yes. How many calories can you burn? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna call this book "Naked with Bread." With that famous, yeah, Kathleen really isn't an agent, so if you know, don't. Naked with bread, B-R-E-A-D. Okay, and the sensuality of it, calories, sensuality, S-E-N-T-U-A-L-I-T-Y? S-U-N-A. There it is. Okay. Okay. With kids, we need to put kind of the history of it. Yeah.
Indian fried bread.
Okay. Outdoors. How about types?
Yeah, types of bread.
Yeah. But we really do need to have a little history or a background of bread.
How about ethnic?
Ethnic. Types, we'll put that here, ethnic. I love. How about non-bread breads, like matzah, and a non-yeast bread on this? We have 2 more spots to make the how to make bread. Thank you, Doris.
About guaranteed rising.
Guaranteed rising. How about, what do they call it? Troubleshooting. We have to kind of stretch our demographics. So I think, thank you, Doris, I think we should put recipes in our book because everybody knows the books with recipes, thank you, Deborah, do sell. So we'll put recipes. We need to have the weirdest, the most exotic, the craziest, all of those kind of things in our book too, because there has to be some kind of different slant on it. Now, we're doing this for our own purposes so you can see how this method looks. But if I were to write a book on bread making methods, I might interview famous people. Not famous bakers, but famous people. Barbara Bush on her favorite down-home muffin and, or not muffin, biscuits and gravy, probably in Texas. So maybe they don't eat that stuff. And I would interview Emerald, the chef, on his favorite recipe and find out the history and the methods that they used at home. And that would make the book sell. It would be hard work, but you would use this same kind of thing, but it would make the book sell. Or I might go to famous restaurants. Let's say Gregory's Hometown Pizza uses a famous, Giordano's Pizza in Chicago. Rules, let me tell you. They have a special kind of oven. Maybe I'd go to the owner of Giordano's Pizza and find out what's his favorite methods, and then build it around this to make it a real how-to book. But I'd have to find a different slant. And to do that, I would just start brainstorming. Who in the world not only will buy this book, but how can I make it different and marketable? Because when I'm doing the proposal to send it to Mr. Chaputis, who loved the first Naked with Bread, she's going to ask me, she said, well, there's 15 books out on bread making. What makes yours better? Well, I've interviewed Barbara Bush and Donald Trump and Emerald and Madonna, and they've all given me their famous recipes. Well, okay, we're talking. Okay, for our purposes only, we have 10 different topics. Now what I would let this do is I'd close the tablet, I'd slip it under the bed. This is the really hard part because you're not allowed to look at it for a little time. And once you fall in love with this, let's say you are crazy about Naked with Bread. I mean, you know it. You can smell New York Times bestseller list on this. I put it under the bed, and then a few days later, I'll bring it out and I'll look at it, and I'll see what I want to change. I call this the cooling period. Some people call it chilling. Chill out. Chill out. Let it cool. Because when we're in that first glow of lust with our words. Now, if there's, other people who aren't writers don't understand this, but we fall in love with our words. Oh, I have sneaked into my office at night, which is just across the hall from my bedroom, shut the door very quietly so I don't wake up Joe, turned on the computer and looked at my words. Now there's nobody in here who hasn't done something like that. So I'd let this cool, and then I'd come back and I'd look at it with a clear, sharp, marketing eye. This is the time that you can put it in some kind of prioritized, sequential order. I would want, troubleshooting doesn't belong at the very beginning, probably types, or maybe I'll start more with the sensuality of it, the needing, the therapeutic value, the calorie burning. I might start with that, but I would put that in some kind of sequential order. I might also throw this out and try it again in a different way. But if I've liked this so far, then I'll start working with this. I'll put it in sequential order. But now the question becomes, let me see if I can find a book about this. Okay. This book is, as I remember, about, I'm not hiding it from you, I'm showing the back. This book is about 60,000 words. You have noticed, I'm sure, at bookstores that a lot of books are about this size. Why? Okay, here is the real fact. They fit well on the shelf. It has nothing to do with what the consumer wants. They fit well, I don't have any book boxes, they fit well in the cartons. Gosh. So therefore, if I'm a smart writer, I don't write 500,000 words, which would be this big, on the methods of bread, which I probably could if I was paid enough money. You bet I would. But I arrange my book to be something that will fit on the bookstore shelf, which means, again, there was a reason why I went to that bookstore. I want to look. I want to see who publishes. I want to see the agents that are there. I want to see size. Color doesn't matter. There's a focus group somewhere, a graphic designer who takes care of that. But look at it. Also know that thickness of book can be manipulated by things like sidebars, which are little extra things. They can be manipulated by the thickness of the paper, by the font size. Don't concern yourself with that. Concern yourself with writing a book that is between, for nonfiction, 60 to 80,000 words. Okay, now I've drummed that into my head. Let's say I've decided 60,000 words. 60,000 words, oh my gosh. That's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. And yes, all the little words count. I didn't know that some people thought the little words didn't count, but apparently there was one high school English teacher somewhere in America that drummed this. Are there any English teachers here? Yes, I was one, yes. Yeah, that said the little words don't count. So I have that question all the time. All words count. And even if you do number 1, 2, 3, that counts too. Okay, let me, excuse me just a minute while my gosh, I have to write 60,000 words on bread methods. Naked with bread is one thing, but wow. Okay, but using the bubble method, I have 10 chapters.
That's 3 words already.
Oh, 3. Okay, now I only need 59,997 other words, yes. Okay, but I have 10 subtopics. Very easy. Ta-da! Every chapter should be about 6,000 words. Okay, I still can't write 6,000 words. That to me is huge. I'm a very simple person. I want baby steps. Remember that movie, Bada Bob Bob? Baby steps? Yeah, okay. 6,000 words. Oh my gosh. But when I've done my bubble and I have bubbled the chapters, remember the outside bubbles? I've taken that down and I've bubbled those chapters. I forced myself to come up with 10 topics for every subtopic, sub-bubbles. Okay, so I have every chapter is 6,000 words, but I have 10 subtopics. Ta-da! Okay. I only have to, that didn't line up the zeros, I only have to write 600 words on every subtopic. 600 words. What is that? 2.5 pages? I can do that. So I only need 600 words. So while my book starts out at 60,000 words, with this method, I have broken it down to itty-bitty, usable, doable chunks. And now it is not such a huge project. You can possibly, without knowing your day, there's probably a half hour in your day where you could write 600 words. Maybe not 600 good words, but it doesn't have to be good words. I think it was Ralph Keyes who talked about vomit pages. Vomit pages, thank you, it's memorable, isn't it? Vomit pages mean you spew it out and you clean it up later. And you will now all remember vomit pages. Get it out, because a book that's inside you does not do anybody any good. It doesn't make you any money. It doesn't help humanity. It doesn't put braces on your kids' teeth. So get the book out and then clean it up later. So while I don't consider my work vomit by any means, or vomit pages, I'm human. And if you haven't learned it yet, perfection is the enemy of done. If you're waiting for perfection, ladies and gentlemen, not going to happen. Only God is perfect. The rest of us have to work with this imperfect stuff, and that is why we have editors. So with our book, kneading bread with our feet, kneading bread with our elbows, laying the dog walk on it to knead it, these are all 600 word chunks that will turn out to be 60,000 words. Very easy. Any questions on it? You can use it for titles. We're going to talk about character development in just a moment. You can use it for marketing plans. You can use it for publicity. Just the most important thing is don't censor yourself. I find that people who don't use this say, oh, but that idea was too stupid. I happen to like the title, Naked with Bread. I just think, yeah, or naked bread, you know? Let's take out the with. I always like subtitles. Cooking methods that you wouldn't believe that are bare bones of cooking methods, or bare facts of cooking methods. Can't you just see that? But use the way your brain works to get things going. And our brain works this way. Okay. Books have... I made a little cheat sheet here, must tell you. Okay, let's say we want to write a mystery. I love mysteries. I like the kind where sort of the Agatha Christie, Nero Wolfe, kind of Tamar Myers, where the blood happens before, because I read at night. I'm not a Stephen King fan. That just scares me. Life scares me. Why would I want to read it, you know? So I like those kind of mysteries. I like a lot of plot. I like interesting characters. And as for those who are writing fiction, you know it. Books are now not just one plot. For fiction, you have to weave 2 or 3, sometimes 4 plots into your book, because it's based on many things, including character development. All books are about people, really. And I forget who said it, but somebody very famous said it, and I'll remember it as soon as all of you leave, is that interesting books are not about happy people. They're not. They're not. Anne Frank was not a happy person. Let's see. Who are some more unhappy people in books? Scarlett O'Hara was not a happy person. Interesting books are not about happy people. They're about people who have real challenges, real problems, and then they either succeed or they die on the last page. Or if you're writing The Lovely Bones, and I have a real problem with that book, you write from heaven. I'm sorry, but when I'm in heaven, I'll be doing other things and not speaking to people. So let's say we're writing a mystery, And every good murder mystery has to have the number one thing, a murder or a dead body. Okay? So we're just playing around with this. We're not gonna 2, 3, 4, 5. If you get stuck on trying to figure things out in fiction or nonfiction, go back to the Journalist 6. Who, what, where, why, when, and how. Ask those questions of your topic. That will help you with 6 bubbles. And if you do 6 bubbles, you're halfway there. So, you've already done that. Okay. Question. Who is this person? We really know. I mean, can you see? Anybody want to lie here, down here, and we'll put no. Who is it? Okay, who is it? That's a question. We're brainstorming.
It's a lawyer.
Is it a man or a woman? Woman? Judy, how old is she? 20. I remember 27. Remember what? Isn't that a good year? Oh, wait a minute. You know what? She's a struggling writer, and her book is Naked Bread. Ooh, wait, I knew I'd get that naked bread in here somewhere. Okay, so she's a writer. Yeah. Yeah. And she's been known to scream a lot. Is there any mother here who hasn't screamed? Okay. So with 3 kids, just to get their attention. Oh, and they're going to be, I was going to say teenagers, but she's only 27, so. She screams. Okay. So I better make that smaller. We now know who the dead body is. Okay. How? Stab? Okay, so food poisoning. Okay, how and who? Okay. Where? Well, let's think about this. Okay, so who is our unsuspecting person? Her ex-husband? Now, just before you say, no, this is our sleuth. Before you say that, figure out who your reader will be. Who reads cozy mysteries? Women. But to see how our character is developing. Now we go, let's see, who?
Said where she was found.
Yes, thank you. Where was she found? Oh, at the competition. But why was she murdered? And who murdered her? Why was she murdered? Ooh. Well, actually, let's think about that. The editor that wanted to hear more about cooking naked had a major crush on her, and he became a stalker. And as Sissy, our amateur sleuth, can say, she needed blinds. She needed the 3-day blind company to come in there and do a fast job. But yeah, could be our editor. Yeah. Anyway, the discussion is on. This is how you can develop. We would do all of these. We'd fill them out. And then I would write out the synopsis. I'd write out the plot. Somebody asked me at break time, what about character development? I would stick Marianne Shameless right in here in a new sheet of paper. And I would figure out everything I can about Marianne Shameless. I'd figure out everything about Sissy, my protagonist. I'd find everything I can about all her kids, everything from what their quirks are to their favorite food to what other things they're allergic to, everything, their birthday. And I would keep these sheets because if your brain is anything like mine, in the beginning you could say Marianne Shameless was flashing her baby blue eyes, but at the end you're wondering what in the world color her eyes are. And, or the fact that she hated rye bread, but, thank you, that was yours, that she hated rye bread, but that's what she died of. So keep your character sketches. Keep all of these pieces of paper, yes? I'm going to make these up now. Sissy's 3 kids are having challenges at school, and that's why she was attracted to Marianne Shameless, because Marianne Shameless kids seem to be quite normal, even as all kids are kind of quite normal. So they were talking over the back fence when Marianne had her clothes on, and talking about, I'm just, the toddler says nothing but no. What did you do at that time? So Sissy is coping with her own problems. Maybe her husband has decided that he's had it with the neighborhood, any neighborhood where this woman doesn't know to put down her shades, he wants to move. But Sissy's mother lives 2 blocks away, and her mother's not well, and she doesn't want to move that far. So throughout this plot, Sissy is developing as another character. Now, we can put in another plot here. Maybe Sissy has always wanted to be a competitive baker. And so she's trying out some of the recipes. Actually, that's how she could solve the case. She finds that the dog gets really sick with this rye flour that Marianne Shameless has been having. Because, of course, the family won't eat Sissy's cooking. So she gives it to the dog, and the dog, every time she makes rye bread, the dog pukes all over the carpet. So she takes it to the lab, and then she figures out who gave Marianne Shameless the flour. And it was the editor. Thank you, Gregory. So we've solved our crime. A bun in the oven. I think we need a bun, not just bun. Yeah. Another bun in the oven. Gosh, is she having twins? But this would be how easy and difficult it would be to, on that perfect Sunday afternoon when everything is perfect, to come up with something fun like this. Now I could get really into writing this. This sounds fun. Good question. Can you take material from a book you've already published to turn it into a magazine article? If you own the manuscript, let's say you self-published, then yes, you can. If somebody else owns the manuscript, such as this, it's produced by Rogers and Nelson Publishing in Colorado. When I wanted to write an article on ghostwriting, no, it was on researching, for the Writers magazine, I had to get written permission from my publisher because I had sold him the rights. So all I did is I called and said, hi, Greg, I've got a great opportunity to sell some material. Is it okay? And he said, sure it is. But Random House might want half of it. So you have to get, people think, oh my gosh, can I get permission? Yeah. My mama always said it never hurts to ask. And is there anybody here who has never heard the word no? That's the worst that can happen to you. Somebody will say no, and then you can say, why not? I have a friend in the florist business, and she taught me something very important. She said, never take no from someone who can't say yes. Yes. So that's, well, who else could help me if you can't? Or may I speak to your supervisor? Or may I speak to whomever? Yeah, don't take no from somebody who can't say yes. And lots of people can't say yes. Have clips of your work by publishing magazine articles based on your topic, not from your book, but we're all word machines. We don't have just one article in us. Based on your topic to send along with your book proposal, because it'll make you more credible. If you've been an article on, back to bread, if article on ovens by you has been published in the Union Tribune and the New York Times and the Tallahassee Globe and Mirror, that's going to be impressive to an editor in a publishing house, because editors always are afraid of taking chances. Remember, they're bottom line people. Bless their hearts, they're bean counters. So they need to prove to others that their product is going to make money. And if you've been published in 3 or 4 newspapers, or you've had some success in other publishing areas, then they'll be more willing to take a chance. So if you're starting out in your career as a book writer, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, you want to enter some contests, you want to write articles, you want to write for newspapers, you want to, if you have to, you want to write for free as long as it's published, if the means to the end is that you're going to get your book published. If you were to let me see, I have a question right. If you were to submit a piece and was it accepted for an online magazine, is that credible? Absolutely, it's credible. And then when you're sending an electronic query or an e-query, then you could just reference the URL, which is the web address. The question was, she's been published for 11 years in a certain genre, and she wants to change genres. Will she lose credibility? You will not lose all of it, but let's say you've been writing for 11 years on horseback riding, and suddenly you want to go into training iguanas to clean windows. Yeah, because Welsh Terriers, of course, as we know, already know how to do that, so now we're training iguanas. If you will lose some credibility unless you are already an iguana expert. The expert. And with nonfiction, that's why you have to find something that stirs your heart, because we're all experts on everything. Kathleen is an expert living in a crowded nest. Not only did her daughter and son come home, but they brought their kids. And then, you know, suddenly her idea of retirement in the backwoods of Washington was turned into a 4-ring circus. And what did Kathleen do? Wrote a book on it. I mean, she's an expert. A lot of us would have taken the bed sheet and thrown ourselves out the window, but not Kathleen. So think about that. That's why it's important. So be the expert on it, and you can become the expert on it by writing some articles on it, as you have done, just in a different genre. Okay. The question is, what if you're not an expert on training iguanas to wash windows, or a therapy? Let's say treating kids with non-drugs for ADD. What if I'm not, but I'm intensely interested in this, and I'm writing a book? Well, then you begin to interview people. And a compilation of all these interviews, set up with the bubble method, in a sequential way, can turn out the book. And you're the person who pulls it together. I wrote Insider's Guide to San Diego. Every one of you I know owns a copy, because, but don't trust it. You know, let me tell you, don't trust this book. Actually, when writing this book, I had to divulge my favorite Chinese restaurant, and I really wrestled with myself. I wasn't going to put it in there. And then, of course, my better judgment, I added it, even though I didn't want all that hoi polloi to go to my favorite restaurant. I am not an expert on all of this, but I interviewed scads and scads and scads of people, and I pulled it together in the manuscript to make it happen. Kathleen and Gregory and I all have different books, but for the same publisher, on 50 fabulous places to retire, raise your kids, kiss, fall in love, whatever the topics are. And so no, I'm not going to go around to all of those places, but I will interview people who are there to get their information, and then I will pull it together in the book. Does that answer it? Okay. Point. A lot of times as emerging writers who haven't been published yet or just starting their career, we don't have a lot of wiggle room in negotiation. They say, will you take $500 for that article? Or is $2,000 okay for your royalties on the book? And you say, yes, thank you very much, I'm delighted. After your second book, like that author you were talking about, then you can say, well, what else is in the budget? How big is your budget? Is there any, could I get 10% more? Or what will publicity be? You know, you can quote my mama anytime. She said it never hurts to ask. And I have found when I ask for 10% more, I always get 10% more. And then I kick myself for not asking for 20% more. So do ask. What really the question is, what really constitutes an expert? Somebody who knows, the person who knows more than other people. Right? I know a lot about roses. I don't know the most thing about roses, but growing roses in Carlsbad, I have about 80 bushes. I know a lot. I'm more of an expert than somebody else. I don't have a master's degree in rosology, but I do know more, so I would be an expert. So to specifically answer your question, where would I find experts? It's very easy now if you know how to use the internet. Chamber of Commerce. Large organizations, corporations, churches, city government, the list goes right on. So it's very easy. Phone book. the old-fashioned way back in the dark ages, you know, take out a big metropolitan phone book. I'm looking for an expert on zoology. Gosh, you look under Z. I'm looking for an expert on what kind of wood to burn in a fireplace. Look under chimney sweep. But where would I find the 50 fabulous places to kiss in Southern California find all this information? I would probably ask people. And if I was a non-kissing kind of person, I would go to people who kiss. I was going to tease, I put on plenty of lip gloss. But when I was writing this book, those of you who know me know that I turn into a pumpkin at 8 o'clock. And I don't go to nightclubs. My nightlife is, you know, after Jeopardy and maybe the next, and I'm already in my jammies. Kathleen will say, yeah, they're really cute little red ones. So I don't do nightlife. So what did I do? I went to experts. Our son was living here close by, and he was a college student at that time. And I said, you know, where do the guys hang out? I asked my hairdresser. She's really cool. I asked other 20-something people. And then I called around. And I have to tell you, I called one tavern, for want of a better word, out in San Marcos that was supposed to, I read it on the internet, supposed to have really great atmosphere, you know, hot club. And I asked Matt, because he was going to, that's our son, Cal State San Marcos at that time, and I said, you know, what about this XYZ club? And he said, I don't know. His friend Tobias and he had been in for a beer after class. And I said, but the bartender said that there were hot college babes there. And Matt laughed. Apparently, hot college babe was a drink. So, yeah, yeah. So anyway, I wrote that as a joke in there. If you want hot college babes, a drink, that you'll find them at XYZ Tavern on San Marcos Boulevard. But I would, again, ask people who are more expertise, who, you know, who do kiss more or do frequent taverns, or we all know a lot of people who do lots of different things. So, yes.
For this purpose?
The question is, when I want to interview experts, how do I introduce myself? And yes, I would do that. I'd say, hi, this is Eva Shaw. I'm writing a book for Random House on the best places to kiss in the United States. You've been, this could get tricky. You've come highly recommended. In that lavatory I was in, you know, if you want good kissing, go to, yeah. But seriously, you've come, how in the world would you approach that? But you've come highly recommended, and I wondered if you had some recommendations, and they'll say, what? Yeah, or something like that. And then what you say is, in all seriousness, is this a good time to talk? Do you have a few minutes? May I make an appointment? If you're locally, you can drop in. You can, my telephone has one of those little tapes that you can record conversations. I don't do it because I'm working for the FBI. I do it because I interview people. But you can get little tape recorders and little plugs on the phone to record conversations. Good point. If you're looking for people, you don't have to invent what these people look like. Lands and catalogs are wonderful. People magazine. If Marianne Shameless looks like Britney Spears, rip out a Britney Spears. If she looks like a Jennifer Lopez, rip out one of those. And then create it in your mind. And again, keep a notebook of what the people look like. As newspapers, exactly. But also, every good character and every bad character has good and bad characteristics. Even Darth Vader, remember Darth Vader? He was good at one time. So even for your most villainous character, throw in something that's kind of good. Make him go down to pet a dog or take a kitty out of the tree. And make them handsome. Yeah, make them beautiful. Yeah, but that wild rye bread that they carry in their pocket. Yes, that you'd never suspected. The question is, when you interchange subplots, most books, if you're reading contemporary fiction, the stuff that sells, you have 2 or 3 or maybe 4 plots going on. Do I write one plot and then go on to the next one? No, I interweave them. I let them see how they develop. David Morrell, who wrote Lessons for a Lifetime of Writing, says to talk to your characters. Again, if you're living with civilians, you don't want to do this in public, but ask them, get to know them. Say, Marianne Shameless, why in the world didn't you know your editor was going to kill you? And find out what they have to say about it, and then let the plots develop. If you don't know what a suburban home looks like, go to some of the decorating magazines. If Marianne Shameless lives in Bel Air, go there. It always helps to know your location. Sue Grafton writes about, is it Santa Isabel? Which is really Santa Barbara. She knows her location. I tried to write a mystery of a real crime that happened in Houston. And I thought, oh, there's just information everywhere, information on the internet. I don't need to go to Houston. I had to change the location because I have never been to Houston. Unless you really know the location, it's not going to work. One of the things that Phyllis George, who has written lots of mysteries, said, she does a real schematic on location. She knows everything about the location. She has maps, and you can walk right into wherever it is and know. You know Jan Karen's Mitford? We know the street. We know the town. We know the location. You had a question back there, and you were patient. And also, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but that your first draft is just your first draft. I do about 9, 10, 12 drafts on anything. And I can't, that's why you see printouts, I can't edit well on the screen. I just can't. So I buy big boxes of paper at Staples, and I just chug through it. And also make sure you let things cool. Again, put this away. Books fail because they're not right for the marketplace. I have a topic that is so esoteric, nobody in the world can understand it but me, then nobody in the world is going to buy the book. So you need to make sure you're going into a market that is there. Very much so. If you're going to talk about, if your protagonist is a avocado farmer in Fallbrook, you need to know something about avocados. They don't grow underground. And, you know, they don't turn purple when they ripen, something like that. And so I need to do good research. Books fail because there's insufficient, my favorite topic, self-editing. And I sort of feel like the guilt here. But self-editing is very important. You can pay an editor. Gosh, you can pay me. I would be happy to take your money. But you can do this work. Let the manuscript cool, put it away, come back a day, depending on how much you have done. 3 months is the perfect time. Shove it under the bed. Don't look at it. Critique groups are wonderful. I don't belong to them because I write. I don't have time. And if I want to socialize, I call a friend and I socialize. I go out and do things if I socialize. I love writers. I love going to conferences, but I don't need to share my work. Find somebody who you value their opinion and they know your genre. If you're writing science fiction, or you're writing romance, or you're writing a how-to book, don't take it to somebody who hates that genre for critique. Let's say you're writing this novel. Get in a critique group that understands this genre so that they can give you valid help. And don't stop. Again, it took me 49 rejections to get a book, my first book published, and I have written more than 70 now. And truly, truly, I do have a gift writing. I love to write. I'm a fast writer. I just praise God every day that I can do this so easy, and people pay me to do it. Oh my gosh, and I don't have to commute. You know, I walk across the hall from the bedroom, stop at the kitchen to get the coffee, and that's my commute. I do that. But I really think the difference is I don't give up. If I believe in something, I simply don't give up. Wayne Gretzky, famous hockey player, philosopher, I'm sure, said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I live by that. Most of you don't remember this, but there was somebody named Murph the Surf in the 60s, and he had something to do with some kind of scandal. I have always been fascinated by this. Someday I'm going to write something about Murph the Surf. Clip out things, read in your genre, get to know the language that's in your genre, so that when you're ready to write, your ideas will be marketable. Think of a literary agent as a real estate agent. As soon as that property is ready to sell, it's in good order, you know, I watch HGTV, they put out the pots of annuals in the front and they clean the kitchen, then it's ready to sell, and the agent can turn it around quickly and make money. That's what a literary agent does. They want a product that's easy to sell and is right. So it really depends. Going to conferences is a great place to reach agents and editors, and if you're a shy person, like I really am, get their business card. You don't have to pitch your manuscript right there. Get their business card, contact them again. There's something called the slush pile, or over the transom. That's when manuscripts, unsolicited manuscripts, come into a publisher's office or to an agent's office, and they will look at him and kind of shove him aside. But every agent, every editor at a publishing house is looking for a jewel. So if you have not gotten representation, if you haven't found an agent who will work with you, don't be afraid to send your manuscript in. But I would first contact agents, have a manuscript that's ready, go to writers' conferences, network, look in the acknowledgments in books, find out who those agents are, and approach those people. Once you have a publishing contract, you have no trouble getting an agent. Yeah. Thank you.